right, so we are here for Library 101 for international students. My name is Kate Gibbings, and I am the Engineering and Skilled Trades Librarian at Durham College. So I wanted to offer this workshop because I think there's a lot of things that are really helpful to know if you're starting out at the beginning of your program, or even if it's just the beginning of a new school year. Sometimes I'll visit people's classes and we'll talk about some of the things we're going to talk about today, like search tools, finding good information, and people may say, I wish I had known this, in my first year. So that's what we're trying to do here, give you that information that's really helpful at the beginning. Again, if you have any questions at any time, please feel free to put them in the chat or turn on your audio if you want to ask a question that way. And so what we're going to cover is what can the library do for you? Accessing library resources. This is both online and coming into the library to visit. Types of information and where to find it. We'll look at a few search tools, and we will talk about citation help. I know citation is something that people often find challenging when they're just learning how to do it in the beginning. So we want to make sure that we cover that. So I'll start with what can the library do for you? Of course, we have access to books and ebooks. We do have some textbooks. People often ask about textbooks. I am going to talk more about textbooks in a moment. All kinds of articles and many other types of information. We have things like equipment loans. You could borrow phone chargers, whiteboard markers, IT loans out laptops through the library. We have different guides that recommend good library resources for your program. I'll show you those. We have citation guides, which will help you with APA or MLA citation or other citation styles. I'll show you those as well. And we have a lot of different ways for you to get help. So you can email us. We have a chat service on our library homepage, which I'll show you. You can get online appointments with your librarian. And you can come into the library and go up to our help desk and ask a question that way. So we answer all kinds of questions. I wanted to give you a few examples of the kind of questions that we get from students. So one would be, do you have this book or article? Maybe, maybe it's a textbook. You want to know if we have it, or an article that you found, but you can't figure out how to get to the text so that you can actually read it. So that's a question we could help you access the thing you're looking for. I need information for an assignment. Where should I search? We can point you to the best search tool for whatever it is you're trying to do. I've been trying to find information for this topic, but I haven't found much. Can you help me? Sometimes you might get started, you might find a few things, and then you kind of don't know where to look next. So this is something we can help you with as well. Maybe we can show you somewhere else to search. Maybe we can suggest different search words that might help. How do I cite this book, article, or website? With a question like that, we would point you to one of our citation guides that are online and probably find you an example that fits well with what the kind of information you're trying to cite, and sort of help you figure out how can your citation match this example. So we won't write the citation for you, but we can give you that kind of help. My professor said I need a scholarly article. Is this scholarly? So I'm going to talk about this. What does it mean for an article to be scholarly if your professor says that that's the kind of article you need for an assignment? And the last example, is this a good website to use for my assignment? So, you can find all kinds of things on the internet, as you know, and your professor will expect that you will use reliable and trustworthy websites. So that's something we can help with as well. I said that there's different ways that you can ask us for help. So there's our email, library@durhamcollege.ca. We have our chat service called Ask Us or Ask On. And I might actually show you that right now. This is our library homepage. So every page of the library has this chat button. So if I click on this, I can ask my question, and I should get a quick response. So this is great for, well, simpler questions, or actually when you are looking or maybe you're researching a topic, you can ask that kind of question in here as well. Every program has its own subject specialist librarian. We're sort of divided up by different schools, like School of Science and Engineering Technology, School of Media, Art and Design, that kind of thing. So you can email us your individual subject librarian. For example, if you were in an engineering technology program, you could email me. Even if you're not and you'd like to email me sometime, please go right ahead. You can also book an appointment with your subject specialist librarian. So maybe I'll share that link to your subject librarian in the chat in case you want to contact that person about anything. So let's get started with accessing library resources. First, I'm going to start by talking about online resources because, of course, most of us are not on campus as much as we used to be in the past. And whether you are on campus or you're off campus at home, if you're in another country, you should be accessing online library resources in the same way. So I'll show you what these steps look like. You're going to search from the library homepage. The library's main search tool is called Omnisearch. You'll choose a resource, maybe an article or an ebook, and at that point you will be asked to log in. So what does this look like? Let's do a search here. I'm going to search for animal therapy. I'm interested in animal therapy for mental health. So library homepage, this is durhamcollege.ca/library. And I'll start my search. And now I'm in the Omnisearch tool. So I can actually choose to only see things that are available online, which you might be interested in if you know that you're not coming to campus to pick something up. So I'm going to pick this first article. It says it's available online, so I will choose that. And now what it's going to show me is some databases. Now, sometimes there's just one. This one has quite a few to choose from. It really doesn't matter which one I pick. I'm just going to pick the first one. And now it is asking me to log in. So I will do that. This is your student number and your network ID. So that was the same login that you would use for Durham College email and for DC Connect. And now I can get to the full PDF for this article. So these next couple of slides, and I will make sure that you get a copy of these slides sent to you after the workshop. There's just the steps that we just looked at. So you don't have to log in before you search. You only have to log in when you try to connect to a specific resource. Another example I wanted to talk about was sometimes you might be doing some searching on the internet. Maybe you're using something like Google Scholar, maybe you're just using Google, and you find an article, but it says something like purchase PDF. Or this one also, this picture here says access through your institution. If I click on that, it's not going to work for me. I'm not going to be able to read this article because I haven't connected through the library. So if that's the case and you want to get a copy of this, what you can do is just copy the title of the article. You could also add in an author's last name or something like that, and put it in our Omnisearch to see if we have it. So again, let's go back to our Omnisearch tool here that I already have open. And that one was called Electric Vehicle Incentive Policies in Canadian Provinces. And let's see if we have this one. We do, so that's great. So again, I'm going to click on Available Online and get access to this article. All right, so if you have any questions about accessing online library resources, let me know in the chat. But I'm going to move on to the print and the physical resources that are actually in the library. So how do you borrow a print book or something else that we have in the library? Use your digital or physical Durham College student ID card, or sometimes called campus ID, to check out books and other items. Most books check out for 120 days, but if someone else requests the book that you have out, then you will get an email asking you to return it in 7 days. Now, but that also means if someone else has a book that you want and you request it, they will have to return it in 7 days. We also have something called course reserves. So professors can take a textbook or something else that they want you to have access to, and they can give it a 1 or a 3-day loan period. And we call that a course reserve. That means more students are going to be able to access it. Does mean that you're going to have it for a shorter time, though. We can also get things for you from other libraries, other college libraries. This is called Interlibrary Loan, and I have a link to it here. If you're ever interested in doing this, you can always ask for help. But you're basically just filling out a form that says what, information about the book or the article that you want. And you know that Durham College does not have it. If it's an article, you would be getting it by email once we can get it for you. If it's a book, it's going to be, if a full book, then we would be mailing it to Durham College. And if there's ever anything that you think the library should have, or you're just trying to figure out if we have it or not, contact your subject librarian, because we might be able to find you a copy, maybe a free copy. Maybe we'll even buy it for the library based on your suggestion. All right, if you have any questions about borrowing, let me know. And we're going to move on to our next section, which is types of information and where to find it. So I have a few different examples here. I've got a book, I've got a few different kinds of articles. And I want to talk about first some expectations that your professor may have when it comes to finding information for an assignment. So for some assignments, you might see that what it says is you have to find books or articles that are scholarly or peer-reviewed. That's not going to be every assignment, maybe just once in a while. So what does that mean? I'm going to explain that in a moment. And but another thing I wanted to mention, I said this a little bit already, was when you use information from websites for an assignment, you will be expected to choose websites that are reliable and trustworthy. So some of the things you can look at are who has published that website, if they show where the information came from, do they have a reference for anything? Do they link to something? Do they say where they got their information? What's the purpose of the website? Are they trying to sell you something? Is it for entertainment? Does it have a political view that might influence the information? Is it for education, which would be a really great purpose that would be useful to you? So actually, we could take just a moment, and I'm going to switch over to a Google search. I'm going to go back to my topic I had before, animal therapy for mental health. And let's look at just a couple of things that come up in the Google search. I'm going to open up this first one. I'm going to open this one as well. Let's see what else. Let's just stick with those two for now. So here's one of the websites that came up. And maybe you read through this article. There's some good information here. You would like to include it in your assignment. You can't tell exactly who wrote this because it just says Mayo Clinic staff. It'd be nice if you knew maybe who the author was. But if we see that this website is from the Mayo Clinic, we could look up what is the Mayo Clinic, maybe just by clicking on this. And we would learn that it is a reliable health source that is putting out information just to educate and help people. So that would be a great reason.
So, ma'am, can I ask?
Mhm.
Ma'am, suppose I got an article from my professor and I find it on Google. So, if I want to check that it is reliable or not for the professor, so can I ask you?
Yes, you could ask us that question. And I'm going to put in two, if you just wanted to email library, oops, sorry, there we go, library at public.ca. That's one easy way to do it. Someone is going to send your question to the right librarian. Or I had shared that link to subject librarians, so you can email that person. So for you, as in the computer technician program, let's see here, that would be our business librarian. So either one would be fine. And I think as they help you to find, a website that is good and explain why, probably the next time you search, it's going to be easier for you to figure that out on your own. But if you want to ask again in the future, that's fine too. Because that's exactly
Okay.
what we're here for.
Okay. So, ma'am, one more question.
Mm-hmm.
Ma'am, as I am enrolled in computer system technician program, so this is for the first time I am coming to an international college. So, can you just guide me that what all things I will be needed to get help from the librarians? Means I don't know that what in which way I have to take help from the librarian.
Well, one of the first things when you start, you might wonder if we have any of your textbooks. Um, so that's something you could add the search tools that I've started to show you, like the Omnisearch. You could look up the title of your textbook there to see if we have it. You may want to buy it, even if we do have it, but it's good to know if we do. Let's say you needed some more information on a programming language. Um, and you could look that up in our search tool and maybe find an ebook that helps you, with some additional information about how to use that programming language. Maybe you also have a textbook for that, or maybe you don't. So that might be something I'm thinking about for your program. It really depends on the program. Like you may have more assignments where you have to do some research on the internet or through the library, or you may have fewer assignments where you need that kind of information.
Okay, so
And
time of assignments I have to use Omnisearch.
sometimes, yes, like if you get an assignment,
Hmm.
um, let's say it was about, let's see, a topic, a new kind of technology that's being used, and maybe you have a group project and you need to find out a little bit more about that new technology or how it's being used. That's something you might want to search in Omnisearch.
Okay, so means
You could,
Omnisearch is a completely reliable
yes, yes, and
for,
that,
for the professors.
yeah, I would say so.
Okay.
It's going to be reliable articles and books. Doesn't You can also Google search, and that's fine.
Yes.
But it's good to do both sometimes.
Yes. Means I am saying that because as it is it is of only of college only, so it will be reliable for the professor, I think.
Yes, yeah, it's going to be safer to use that for some things. Um, the articles that are in there will be reliable. Yes,
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
you're welcome. Um, so maybe just one more example of a website that I found from Google searching medical news today. Um, I might think that this information looks pretty good. I might want to look a little further at what is medical news today, who's publishing it, just checking out the website a little more. But something I do see here is this is the author of this article, and it does tell me that this person has these letters after their name, DVM, MPH. I'm going to guess that that has something to do with the field of animals or health or something like that. I could look that up. And this gives me a little bit more confidence that this article has good information because I can see who the author is and I could find out a little bit more about them. And there are some links here as well, although I think they're just going to other places on the website. So I would just investigate this website a little bit more, but it might be an okay source of information. All right, so I wanted to talk for a moment about books and articles. So let's start with books. I think you're probably very familiar with textbooks that are, of course, going to teach you a subject. There are many print textbooks in the library. Sometimes we will have the textbook that you use in your course, sometimes we don't. And a lot of students ask us, do you have an online version of my textbook? Do you have an ebook for that? Sometimes we do, but there are many cases where we don't. And the reason is that the publishers of textbooks don't always sell their ebook copies to libraries. Because if we as a library buy it, we can loan it out to many different students, and then they're not going to make as much money. So sometimes we might try to buy it as an ebook and we can't, so we will buy it in print. If you're ever wondering why we have many more print textbooks than electronic textbooks, that's one reason. And then just for regular books, this is good if you are just trying to get an introduction to a topic that you have to research. We were just talking about this question. Most books in the Durham College Library are scholarly. So again, I'm going to talk in a moment about what scholarly means. And you can find books in the library's Omnisearch. So just as an example here of what kind of books you might find in the library, you might find a textbook. This one is called International Environmental Law. I also looked up another book on international law. This one is called Compliance and Enforcement of International Law. So this is pretty general. If you don't know much about environmental law yet, this would be a great place to start. But you'll also find books that are a lot more narrow. So this one is only about European water law. It's a lot more specific. So if you happen to be interested in water law, this would be a good book to look at. Okay, I said I'd come back to what is a scholarly source. So let's talk about that. It includes a lot of research. So it could be the person who's writing it has done their own research, or they are analyzing other people's research. The audience that they're writing for would be other researchers, professors, students like you, and professionals who are working in a field. And it uses more advanced language and vocabulary. So the websites I was just showing you from Google would not be so scholarly because they're meant for anybody to be able to read. For scholarly, let's say that it is about a science topic. If you don't have a background in science, you might find it a little harder to understand. But if you do have some background in science, it's going to be a little bit easier for you to understand. You'll notice that scholarly sources are a bit longer. They are mostly text. They don't have too many images, but if they do, it's probably diagrams and charts. It's not images that are just there to look nice. And they usually would include a reference list. So all of the articles and books that this author has used to write their article or their book. So if you are looking at articles, another easy way to figure out if it's scholarly or not is a scholarly article would be a journal article or a conference paper. Magazines and newspaper articles are not scholarly. They're still good sources of information. There's many assignments where you could use magazine and newspaper articles, and that would be great. They are reliable. There's many websites that are very reliable. They just might not be scholarly. So they're just, scholarly is just that slightly higher level of research. So you can find all these kinds of articles in the library's Omnisearch and in library databases, which I will show you an example, and in Google Scholar. And one more thing that I want to explain, if you aren't familiar with this term, is a peer-reviewed article. So this is very similar to scholarly. Peer-reviewed articles are published in peer-reviewed journals or peer-reviewed conferences. And that is most journals and conferences. So if you see that something is a journal or a conference, it is probably peer-reviewed. Peer-reviewed is when experts have to review a research paper, and if they decide that it is of high quality and the research is valuable, then it will get published. So it's just a step that it has to pass through before it gets published. So let's look at some examples here. This is an example of a journal article, and some of the ways that you can tell that it's a journal article, well, probably the easiest way is that it says somewhere on here, Journal of Gerontology. So I know it's a journal. Now, not every journal has the word journal in it. So another clue is that it has a volume, and it also has an issue number. In this case, it says volume 57A, and it says number 7. Sometimes it would say issue 7. This is how I know this is a journal, and a journal should be a scholarly source. You can see it does have a lot of text. I haven't shown you the whole article here. I can see the authors, that it actually lists what universities they're from. And I'm also seeing an abstract, which is a summary of that article. If I looked further, I would see a really long reference list. Now, conference paper, which you might find when you're searching, looks very similar. It's a lot of text, usually not a lot of images unless they are diagrams. It's got the abstract, which gives you a summary of what is in this article. But one of the most important things is it has a conference name. So this has a very long name. It says Proceedings of the Companion of the 2017 ACM IEEE International Conference. But I do see the word conference there. So this is very similar to a journal. It's just instead of at a conference, you would have the researchers would be presenting their research to others, and then it gets published as a paper. And this is my last example. This one is not scholarly. So this is a trade magazine, and a trade magazine is a magazine that's aimed at people who work in a certain field. In this case, it says EMS World, and that would be emergency medical services, so like a paramedic. So that's who this is for. It's for paramedics and people like them. And it says magazine on this page, so that's how I know that it's a magazine. It also, let's see what else. It might have a picture in it that's just there to look nice. There's no summary at the beginning, and it probably wouldn't have a long list of references. So those are some clues to me that this is not scholarly. But as I keep saying, this could be a good source for an assignment, just not if your professor said you have to use scholarly sources only. And there are many other types of information. I talked about books and articles. Reports can be really useful. Maybe you're trying to find business information. Maybe a hospital organization has written a report that has useful information. You can find that in Google. You can also find that in library's Omnisearch. Websites, statistics, these can all be good sources. Yeah, question.
Actually, sorry to say, ma'am, but can you just repeat the difference between scholarly and not scholarly?
Oh, sure. I'm going to bring in another example too, so we can look at it. Okay, so let's go to. So mostly if we're talking about scholarly sources, we usually mean a journal article or a conference paper. There might be a few other kinds of things that can be scholarly, but these are the things that you're going to find most often that are scholarly. And so some things to look for would be the journal title. If you see somewhere on here that it has a journal title, it also has an article title, then you know it's a journal. So it should be scholarly. This is going to be very advanced research that you're reading about in this article. And a conference paper is very similar. Just because it's not published in a journal, it has been published through a conference, but it's really the same idea. It's a researcher sharing their research. It's going to be longer. it's going to have that long reference list at the end. It could be, it could be 5 references, it could be 20, it could even be 30 or more. All the different articles that they've used to help them write their paper along with their own research. But if you find something else, so like a newspaper article, a post on a website, this is an example here of a magazine. Before, when we were looking at Google, and we found this medical news today, all of these are not scholarly because they're not journals and they're not conferences. And here's another one. We looked at the Mayo Clinic website. Again, not scholarly. These are meant for anyone to read. They are not meant for students and professors and researchers to read. Well, you could read these too, but it's not only for them.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am.
That's kind of the difference. Yeah. All right, so we have 2 more things to talk about before we finish up this workshop. The first is wanting to show you some search tools, and the last one is the citation help. So we've already kind of looked at Omni, so I'm not going to spend too much more time with Omni. I showed you my search for animal therapy and mental health. And in many search tools, all of the ones that I'm going to show you, on the left, you have filters. So you type in your search, let's say you've got 1,000 results. This one actually got 18,000 results. You can narrow that down through the filters. For example, I chose to just search 2015, things that were published from 2015 up to today, 2021. And I've also chosen just to search peer-reviewed journals. So I would especially recommend when you're searching the date filter, because you don't always want to be looking at things from maybe 2001 or, sometimes you need your information to be more current. So this is really helpful for that. And Omni has some different useful filters. I showed you already the option to choose available online. So this means you're not going to see anything that's print. Under resource type, you could choose just to look at books and ebooks. So that would be really helpful, for example, if you were looking for a textbook. And as I just said, publication date. You might want something that was published even within the last 1 or 2 years. We also have library databases. So these are useful when, for example, you want to search for information that is focused on your subject area. So maybe computer science, maybe a database on business or on science or something like that. So let me show you where to find this. We will switch over to the library website for a moment. So here's the library homepage again. And I'm going to show you, if you wanted to see all the databases that Durham College has, we've got databases A to Z. You can also just click on databases right here. And we also have research guides. So I'm going to show you research guides because this is where, and again, there's a link, there'll be a link to this in the slides. If you are in, let's say, a health program, you can go down to health sciences and choose one of these guides. I'm just going to choose the regular health sciences guide. And this is where we would list some databases that are just focused on health sciences. Again, if it was business, if you search a database that is recommended on this guide, it's just going to focus on business. And sometimes that's really useful. So we would go into this database and we would maybe type in our search, animal therapy, mental health. Maybe your professor even told you some database that you should search. So this is how you would find it. And just like I showed you in Omni, I said there's filters on the left. It's the same thing in this database and in most databases that you'll see. So I don't want to go back to 1975. I want to go to maybe 2010. I'm going to go back 20 years. That's actually getting pretty old, but That's what I'm going to do for this search. And maybe I only want to look at certain kinds of articles. So I could choose one of those. Okay, let's go back a step here. And if your professor ever told you to search a certain database, you could just go to databases A to Z and find that database. So, you know, wait and see till if you get an assignment that's like that, that might be useful. So in the slides that you'll get, I just linked you to the research guides where you could find yours for your program. And the last search tool I want to talk about is Google Scholar. So has anyone used Google Scholar before? I'll put a link to it in the chat. So I put a link to Google Scholar in the chat, and it's a free tool, as you probably know, and it does connect you to a lot of free articles. But I also want to show you that you can use Google Scholar to connect not just to free articles, but to articles that we have through Durham College. So before I show you that, just why would you search Google Scholar? It's a very large collection of articles and books. The books that you find in there, you're usually not going to be able to get for free, but you at least know that that book exists. The articles, as I said, you will find a lot of free articles in there. You can find many scholarly articles, so that's good. It's easy to search. You can create citations in Google Scholar, so you can use it to create an APA or an MLA search or other kinds of citation styles. And I'm going to show you how to connect to Durham College paid for articles as well. So if Google Scholar is so great, why would you search a library database? Well, you can do a lot of the same things with the library database that you can do with Google Scholar. You do have a lot more control over your search. And as I was saying, a database will often allow you to focus in on a subject. So whether it's engineering or health or whatever it may be. So if we look at a sample search in Google Scholar, I think I'm going to do this over here. We'll use our same search, animal therapy, mental health. I don't have a lot of choices here for filters on the left. I can choose a date at least. So I'm going to say 2015 and up to the present. So that makes my results a little more current. And I mentioned that you can get a citation from here. So let's say that this article is one that I want to use in my assignment. There's a quotation mark button here. And I could get an APA citation, I could get an MLA citation, or a few others. So sometimes I'll use this if I found an article even somewhere else. I might look it up in Google Scholar just so I can copy that APA citation. Now, you should still always check this to make sure that the citation looks correct. In a moment, I'll show you some citation help guides so that you actually know if this is correct or not. But this is all done by machines, so there could be errors in here that you might have to just fix it a little bit. All right, so this is in the slides, but I'm going to show it to you in Google Scholar. So what you would do is you're going to see a lot of free articles, as I've said. You get those links over here on the right. But not every article is free. So this article, for example, there is no free copy. And right now it says full text at Ontario Tech. I'm going to change that to Durham College in a moment. But for you, if you were doing the search, you wouldn't see anything here. And so if you really wanted this article, you would not be able to get access to it. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to Google Scholar settings, and I have this in the slides. We'll go to library links, And then I'm going to search Durham College. And what I want here is Durham College, this one. Not this other one, that's a different one. So we're going to save that. And now, if this is the article I want, if I click on full text at Durham College, it will take me into the Omnisearch tool, which we've already seen. And it will say, okay, we don't have this one. So let's maybe look at a different example. See if we can find something else here. Here's another one. Full text at Durham College. Let's try this one. Okay, so this one we do have. So just like I would do normally, I'm going to click on available online. I'm going to go into that library database. And now I will be able to read that article. There's the PDF. So this is what's great about doing that, is that I get the free papers, but I also can find it, the ones that Durham College has paid for. And if you don't see a full text at Durham College link, remember you can always copy the title and put that in Omnisearch and figure out if we have it that way. So let's move on to citation, but if anybody has any questions about Google Scholar, you can also ask those questions. Citation Help. So this is the last thing we're going to talk about in the workshop. Here I have a reference list using APA style. So when you, at some point for an assignment, you have to create a reference list. It might look something like this if your professor says that they want you to use APA style, for example. And when at the beginning of the year, you'll probably hear a lot about academic integrity and avoiding plagiarism, which means, you know, when you use someone else's ideas, you give them credit. So citation is just one part of that, because if you do use someone else's ideas from their article or their website or their book, you're going to include that in your reference list. And by having a correct citation that has all the information you need, it means your professor is going to be able to find that source, and they're going to know where you got your information from. So a suggestion I have is, if you are looking up information through the library or on the internet, you know, sometimes you might be going to some different websites. I do this sometimes. Let's say let's go here. Let's say I'm taking down some notes from this website for my paper, and I don't remember to keep this link. Later on, I'm not going to maybe remember which website I got it from, and then I can't do a proper citation. So that's just a tip as you're searching. Keep track of the links, maybe even write down like a title or something like that, so that you don't forget where you got your information from. And let me show you the library's citation style guides. So we are going to go to the library citation guide. I will share this link in the chat. And we have guides for a few different citation styles. APA, 7th edition would be the most current one. MLA, we have some information on IEEE and a few others. So APA is the most common. So if we take a look at this, you know, if I know that I need to do a reference or a citation for a website, I can go down to the section on websites, which is page 15. And I can look at the example and try to, you know, the website that I have, try to make it look like this. And again, if you come to us for help, this is the kind of thing that we would show you. Say, well, so this is what we want it to look like. Let's take your website information and have it look something like this. So you will get more information about citation in class, but it is good to know that the library has these guides. Here's another example. Sometimes I might get a question from a student. I'm supposed to cite my professor's PowerPoint or my professor's lecture notes. There's another type of thing where we'd have an example for that in our library citation guide. Something else you can do is use citation generator tools to help you create the citation. You still have to check them to make sure that they are right, but they can save you some time. So in Omnisearch, you can get a citation there. Library databases, we saw Google Scholar. Let's take a look at Omnisearch maybe for this. Let's see here. So actually, this is there. We had an article here about electric vehicle policies in Canada. Let's select that. And I'm just looking, so here we go, citation. So if I click on this, I could choose APA 7th edition. And here is a citation that I can copy and put on my reference list. I'm looking at this, looks pretty good. I don't think there's anything I'd have to fix with this one. Looks like it would be correct. As you get more familiar with citation, it'll be easier for you to tell if there's maybe a mistake in here somewhere. You'll also find other citation generators on the internet that are free. I have one example here called Zotero Bib. And I like this one because it doesn't have a lot of ads. It's pretty simple. I could copy the name of an article, the title, I should say, and put it in here and get a citation. I don't know, does anybody have any citation tools that you've used on the internet? There are others, like for example, something like Citation Machine. These ones do have a lot of ads. It can be a little bit harder to figure out where to go to get that citation. But you know, they do still work, and you might figure out that some you like better than others. But I think the ones that work in your search tool are really good because they are a little bit easier to use. All right, let's go back to the slides. I know we only have about 5 minutes left. So let's finish up here. So I've said this already, but for Citation Help, how can we help you in the library? Well, for one thing, we can help you figure out what you are trying to cite. So you might have found some information on the internet and you're thinking, well, is this a website? Is that the kind of example I could be looking at? We might say, oh, this might be a government document. You could cite it that way. And we can point you to examples so that that would help you create a citation. And you can ask that type of question through any of the ways I've talked about that you can get help from us. Another place you can get help is Student Academic Learning Services, or SALS. So that's different from the library. And if you go to their SALS online, they have APA and MLA referencing help there. I think they have workshops that are maybe recorded that you could watch. And you can also get in contact with them in other ways. So I've linked to their FAQs page. And this would be also, I think, if you wanted a little more help to someone to actually maybe look at a reference list with you, then someone from SALS could help with that. So to finish up, I just have the same slide again that we saw before, how you can ask us for help, email, chat service, your subject specialist librarian. Those are all ways to get help.